All available experts, please report to room A9.
Hello everyone, my name is Quinn West, and today I will be covering Goofier game made by none other than Goofy. The goal of the module is to sort these numbers in such a way that every single number on the module is the same. To do this, you can move these rows and columns left and right or up and down. Moving a row right will cause the row to shift right and also cause every number on here to increase. A 9 will wrap around to a 0, and a 0 going left will wrap back around to a 9. Shifting a column up will cause the numbers to increase, and shifting it back down to decrease. And so the goal is to get all the numbers to be the same. So the way I do this is I like to go row by row. So for starting, I like to try and get as many zeros into the top row as possible. I like to use zeros. In this case, I have two 9s here, and if I were to shift it right, these would turn into two zeros, because 9 going right is 0. And now I have two zeros. And so, what I can do is I can just like shift these around until a 0 shows up, like there's a 0 here. Sometimes you might not get that. So what you can do is try and get a 9 into the second row, because 9 being shifted up would be 1. So in this case, I have an 8 here. If I shift it right, it would move right and increase to a 9. And then if I shift it up, and it increase again back to a 0. And so I can try and put a 9 right below the spot I need, and then shift it up to a 0. Let's see if I can do that. Doesn't seem there's a 9 here, and there's probably is no 0 that I can place in the top either. Okay, so what I can do is move down another column, or another row, excuse me, and try and place an 8 here, because an 8 going up 2 would lead to a 0. Because it would go from 8 to 9 and then back up to 0. Seems I can't do that either. Okay, let's go down one more for 7.
Emergency cleared. All personnel, please return to your stations.
Thank you, Ash Bash. Okay, so 7 would go up to an 8, 9, and then a 0. And now I have a first row of zeros. Now for the second row, you can just shift this right until you have any zeros in there. In this case, I have two 2s or two 7s. So I can shift this left 2 to go down to 2 zeros, or up 3 to go up to 2 zeros. I'll shift it left. So now I have 2 zeros here. But what do you do with the next 3 columns? What I like to do is I shift these columns down and place 9s here, and then I would shift the third row so that 9s would end up in those positions below it. So in this case, I have two 4s here. If I shift this right 5, it would go 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then shift them back up, and now I have a second 0 here. The reason why it's 9 is you can shift it up and plunk a 0. In this case, I can just keep spamming it, and no 9s. In this case, if you don't have any 9s, you just shift it down a column, and then you have the 8 here, so you can try and place an 8 here, and there we go. Up 2, down to zeros. Now in the third row, although I do have a 0 here, what I want to do is try and get as many zeros as possible, so you can look for duplicate numbers. In this case, I have two 3s, so I can shift it left 3 times and get 2 zeros. And we'll do the strategy again. So these zeros are in the right spot in columns 2 and 4, so I want to shift on 1, 3, and 5. And now I want to try and get 9s in columns 1, 3, and 5 in row 4, then shift it back up. Here we have a 9, that goes up, 0's right there. And have another 9, shift it up, 0's right there. In this case, there is no 9 in this position. So I'll move it down one more and try and get an 8. There's my 8, so that goes up 2. Now I have 3 rows of zeros. Fourth row, similar concept. I have 3 9s here, so I can shift it right, and now I have 3 zeros. These 3 zeros are in the correct spots. Oh god. And these in columns 4 and 5 needs to be shifted down because those are not zeros, and I want to put 9s in this bottom position. So I can just shift it right. There's a 9. And then keep shifting this right. There's my last 9. Okay, so that's row 4 done. Now for the 5th row, you can't really shift down anymore, because then you'd be affecting the first row. Here's where another strategy comes in. Firstly, you want to set any possible number to 0. In this case, I have 2 1s, so you can shift those left to be zeros. And now, here's what you have to do. So for every column that is not a 0, or every digit that is not a 0, you need to look at the column to the left of it and set that column to whatever digit is below it. In this case, this 8, one digit below, is a 7. So I'd set this column to a 7. And now over here we have another set of zeros, so to the right of that is a 4, and 4 shifting left 1 would be a 3, so I bring this up to a 3. And what's going to happen here is this 8 will decrease to a 7 if I move it left, and this 4 will decrease to a 3. So columns 3 and 5 will be unaffected, and all the others will have numbers subtracted out of them, so I shift it left. Now I have 2, 6, and 2, because these still can be set back to zeros. So in this case, 2 shifted left 1 would be 1, and then over here, 2 shifted left another 1 would be another 1. So going left would set these to zeros. And lastly, I have this 5 over here. So in this 5, you do the similar thing. To the left of the 5, it would be 4. Now to the left of this 4 would be a 3, because you're always going to want to check the 1 to the right of a 0. Shifting 1 more left would be a 2, because this 3 would shift into 2, 2 would shift into 1, and this 1 would shift into a 0. So basically, upon clicking the left on the row 5, this 5 would shift to a 4, 4 would shift to a 3, 3 would shift to a 2, 2 would shift to a 1, and the 1 would shift to a 0. And now, all the columns are the same, so you can simply shift them into place and solve the module. Let's do another example.
All available experts, please report to room A9.
So in this case, let's try and do our strategy again of filling the entire first row with zeros. So I have 2 2s here and 2 3s here. I could just shift this left or right, but what I also have spotted is there are all 2s below this in the second row. So I can shift this 2 up to a 3, shift this 2 up to a 3, and shift this 2 up to a 3. This first row is entirely the same. Shift everything down to a 0, just moving left 3 times. Now for the second row, I try and find digits that duplicate. There's 3s and 4s, so I can just shift it left until those are zeros. And now columns 2 and 4 are correct, and then columns 1, 3, and 5 need to be shifted down because those are not zeros. So all these that have 9s need to have 9s below it. So, just a little trick that I've mentioned in the last example, but I'll mention here. If you shift any row or column by 5, the digits in those will stay in those positions and increase by 5 because there's 5 different like row configurations, but 10 different digits. So shifting 5 will increase everything by 5. So if we take 8, 1, 4, 1, 4, and shift 5, we have 3, 6, 9, 6, 9, which is plus 5 of each of those digits. So these two are 9s, so those go up. And now we need to try and shift the 9 into this last position. Might not be possible, so we shift this down again. Now we need to try and get an 8 into this position right here. There we go, there's our 8 up 2. So that's row 2 done. Row 3, shift, these 2s are duplicated, there's also the 4s, but the 2s are easy to get to. Shift left, 2 zeros. Now every column that does not have a 0, you shift it down, and you need to move 9s. There we go, 2 9s. Up, up. Now we have the 2 zeros here. Is there a 9 in this one? There is a 9, that can be shifted up. Okay, row 4, duplicate 7s. Oh, duplicate 7s here.
Emergency cleared. All personnel, please return to your stations.
Thank you, Ash. Move right 3 to shift these 2 zeros into the correct position. And now columns 1, 3, and 5 do not have a 0, so you want to shift those down. Move right, there's our 9, and then we noticed from earlier there's the 2 4s below it. So if you just add 5 by shifting right 5, these 9s are in the right spot. Shift those up. This is all zeros. And for row 5. So sometimes you might get a situation where there are no duplicates and you'll just have to deal with one digit being able to be a 0. That can happen, that's still fine. But in this case we have 2. We have these 2 7s. We can move it right 3 for 8, 9, 0. 2 zeros here. And so we need to look at all these zeros and look at the column to the right of it. In this case we have a 7 here, so we need to move this up to a 6, because if we need to move this left 6, it would decrease down to a 6, leaving this column unaffected. Similarly over here, you have a 2, and moving left would bring a 1, because you're subtracting 1. Up to a 1, move left. And so these columns remain unaffected. Let's do it again. So these can be shifted back down to 0 just to show what's going on, but normally you don't have to do this. You can just see it on the fly. Okay, this 5 here would go left to a 4. This 4 now is no longer 0, so left would go to a 3, and left would go to a 2. And so we'd shift left. Now we have 1 and 4. So, because these columns are all the same, they can just be treated as like 0 columns, or columns that can be freely changed. So, to the left of this 4 would be a 3, left of the 3 would be a 2, left of the 2 would be a 1. So we shift it left. Now these are all zeros. Columns can be set into place. Solve module. And one last
All
example.
available experts, please report to room A9.
Okay. So, I can immediately spot, well, obviously we need to make the first row all the same, but I can spot that there are 2 9s here, and these 2 8s can be shifted up to 9s. Is it possible for me to make this last a 9? It is a 9. Shift right, all zeros. Second row, there are no duplicates, so we'll just have to deal with a single 0. That's fine. So we can shift all the other columns down. Excuse me. And let's shift right until we get 9s. 9 right here, 9 over here and up here. Can we get a 9? Probably not. So we'll shift one more down. Now this 8 needs to have an 8 below it. Doesn't exist. Let's go down one more for 7. 7, perfect. Shift that up. 1, 2, 3. 2 zeros. Now, third row. Although I do have a 0 here, I have duplicate numbers, so I can just shift the 9s right to make 2 zeros. Columns 1, 3, and 5 go down. Try and shift around till the 9s end up in the position I want. There we go. Another 9 here. And a 9 right there. Perfect. Okay, row 4. These 9s can be shifted up to zeros. Now, columns 1 and 5 are good, so 2, 3, and 4 need to go down. Let's shift 9s into the positions. 9 here. And a 9 here. Excellent. So, these 2 4s are duplicated, so it's best we move them left to zeros. And we use a strategy again. So, this 8 has a 0 to the left of it, so we need to shift this column up to a 7. Because moving 8 left would bring it to a 7. And then over here, a 4 needs to go up to a 3. Then you move it right 1 to subtract 1 and leave these columns unaffected. This 2 now needs to go down to a 1. This 2 over here also needs to go down to a 1.
Emergency cleared. All personnel, please return to your stations.
Thank you once again. We can shift this left. And now we have this 5 here. And we can just set this up to 4, 3, 2, 1. Because it needs to go left, and you need to account for every single column. Move it left, move all the columns back. Solve module. So, that's Goofier game. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, or swing me a DM on Discord. And thank you for watching.